Alright, so here we have the Moosoo vacuum. Goes by various names according to Amazon. So we're going to go ahead and vacuum the living room with it. See how well it does. Power switch is actually the other pedal, which is interesting. I haven't seen that design before, at least not that I can remember. It actually gets underneath this desk kind of nice. Very similar to my Phantom. The Fury. Hi, Boopers. Oh, she does not like that. You can see I got the bin for the dry tech. I'm not trying to disturb you, Ruby. Just trying to vacuum. Yes, I know I need to clean off this coffee table. I will do that next. No, but it already goes almost all the way down. So, it does get all the way underneath the table before it hits it. So I don't have to press the pedal another time. I don't know if you can even hear me over this motor. It is a 12 amp motor. It sounds pretty much exactly like a Bissell. Like a lot of the older Bissells, like my Cleanview 9595-A sounds very similar to this machine. Or I guess the other way around, since that came out first. Got some Cheez-It dust right there. Yep, got it. As it should. That'd be really sad if I wasn't able to get that. Little piece of something right there. Took a couple tries. Oh, got something. Alright, so a lot of people have asked me what my daily driver vacuum is, and I will do a separate video on that soon, because soon will be when I'm not testing any more new vacuums. Now, generally speaking, my daily driver is whatever machine I'm currently testing for the next review, meaning that as of this moment, this Moosoo is my daily driver. And which means that and the way I basically get around that, because I do vacuum with other vacuums as well, is what I do is if I see it lift the carpet. So the way I get around that is if I'm testing another vacuum and I want to vacuum with something else, I'll use the vacuum I'm testing first to vacuum the living room and all the upholstery and everything. And then afterwards, if I want to use another machine, I'll use it afterwards. So you saw the video with the Auric and a lot of other things. Yeah. So in that case, I vacuumed with this Moosoo first and then with that Auric. Or in the case of the Dyson or whatever, that's the pecking order of how that goes about. So, guess I'll get that real quick. But yeah, so this thing has been my daily driver, and this is the last video that I'll do on this before I actually do the full review. I've been putting off the review a little bit because I haven't been doing too many videos recently, and I honestly just haven't had the motivation to do some reviews, just kind of getting burned out a little bit on it with revenue going down and everything. So there's a piece of hair that somehow, I shouldn't say somehow, there's a piece of hair that made it all the way through. But just one, though. So, this machine, I don't know why this isn't doing a good job at focusing. So this machine will be reviewed, likely it'll be the next vacuum review. I don't want to make any promises, because sometimes then, something will get in the way and I'll have to review a vacuum before I ship it out or something like that. So I did sell the Ultravision Turbo. So we can see that in case you saw this thing struggling with some debris, that's because the way this is designed, it actually reminds me a lot of the UK-based Dysons, because this front this front gate where the actual vacuuming takes place is very narrow. There's not a lot of surface area right here. It's very thin, very long. There's a lot of plastic buffer here. And also, these bristles are very soft. These are very soft bristles. They're not all that stiff, but they are dense. There is a lot of them, but they are very tiny. They're very tiny and they're very soft, but they are dense. So it doesn't seem to do too bad of a job. Again, this isn't the full review, and everything I say in here I'll hopefully remember to mention in the full review. But that's one thing I've noticed, is that when I'm running it on bare floors, which you shouldn't, because it does a very bad job on bare floors, with some exceptions. But generally, it doesn't do the best on floors. But part of the reason why it cleans particularly well on this carpet, again, it's not amazing, obviously, for the $100. It's about average, but why it does better than I thought it would is because since that narrow brush path is very small, and this thing has a lot of suction and a lot of airflow, because again, all the inner tubing is very large in diameter. There's a lot of air rushing through the machine, and you can tell that whenever you turn the thing on, that this hose is, again, it's not the widest thing in the world, but it does allow a very decent amount of airflow and suction. This why am I looking at this? This front base. Sorry, memory just blacked out for a second. This front base, since it has that relatively thin design, it actually sticks to the floor pretty decently well. So if there's any surface dirt that you're trying to pick up, this will get it, which is definitely good, I guess. But when you're trying to run over something like very close to it, it might not get it because it has to go like very far underneath it for the debris to actually get picked up, because it has to go pretty far underneath to get into the air path. So that is something to keep in mind that I've noticed. But it is a little bit different. I will admit that it's a little bit different than what I generally see on vacuums in this price range. Again, it does remind me a lot of a Dyson for some reason, just the way that the air path is on it, how it's a very narrow air path, or a very narrow entrance to the brush roll. And of course it has this transparent piece, which is kind of odd, but it does the trick. The one thing I'm really struggling with this machine is finding parts for it. And I've been wanting to find the parts before I actually do the full review, because how can you recommend a machine if you can't get parts for it? Because at least with certain sharks, you can still, if they've been on the market for long enough, you can find parts for them, even if they're aftermarket. This, I can't find anything. Nothing whatsoever. I've looked on Moosoo's website. I've looked on their Amazon page. I don't know if I'm looking in the wrong place. It doesn't seem very straightforward as far as finding parts. And I'm not even talking about like the base or the dust cup or the hose. I mean like the brush roll, the belt, the filters, the attachments, like basic stuff. Basic replenishment parts that should be available for any machine. I'm having a hard time finding those parts. And that does kind of give me pause as far as how I feel about this machine, because I'm not disappointed with it so far. Like, again, there's some things I don't like about it, but for the price, like, it's not so offensively bad that like I feel like it's awful. I really don't. I do think so far I am liking this a lot better than a lot of the Dirt Devils you'd find in this price range. And I think that if I can find the parts, then I could recommend this to a select group of people. But if I can't find parts, then that's a problem, because how can I recommend a machine unless someone somehow doesn't care at all about even finding belts for their machine, which this is obviously going to at some point need belts. Thankfully, it hasn't burned through the belt yet. It hasn't stretched it out yet. The belt does still hold very tightly on the brush. No issues with that yet. But long term, how's that going to hold up? So there's that. There's also this dust cup, which you can see there's a lot of dust. Even like coarse debris. Just a little bit that has gotten all over this machine. So, but again, I've been going out of my way to use it essentially in the way a normal person would. Because obviously, if I was using this machine, then I would wipe it down after every use. I would clean this filter after every use and empty the bin after every use. But that's not most people. So, we can see it does have filter cleaning instructions, but it doesn't say anything about where to get replacement filters. And I checked the manual as well. So I'm still on the hunt to find the parts for this machine that it needs. I don't know if it's just because this is a new machine, perhaps this just came out and the parts aren't available yet. I may end up just calling Moosoo and see if I can find any information, because otherwise I'm looking on the websites and I'm not finding a whole ton of anything really. And yeah, that's not great. Now again, if this machine had just came out, then I could understand. But even still, I think that if you're going to release a machine like this on the market, because I did not get an early review sample, you can buy this right now, then I think you should have a parts infrastructure already worked out for the machine before you even get it out the door. But yeah. But as far as, just for those wondering, the things that I'm liking about it so far, well, debris pickup on hard floors is very bad. If you want, I've noticed that if I have mud that's on the floors that's dried up, this with the brush on actually does a very good job at sweeping that up and getting that off the floor and picking that up. So that's one aspect about this on floors that I like. But although I don't really remember off the top of my head if other machines do that as well. But that is one thing. Edge cleaning on this. Again, the base goes very close to the edges, and there are these little gates on the bottom. You can see you got these little slots very close to the edge. Obviously a little bit better on this side, of course, because that's where the suction is, but edge cleaning on this is very, very good. I'm very happy about its performance with edge cleaning. It's a lot better than a lot of machines I've tried that actually do advertise edge cleaning. So again, the hose suction is really nice. The attachments are better than certain other machines in this price range. But this is not a dusting brush. This is an upholstery brush. This thing is a very stiff bristles. This is not for dusting anything. I tried to use this to dust those blinds right there, and it did nothing. It did nothing at all. However, running this on my chair or my couch to get pet hair off, it actually doesn't do too bad of a job. So, and of course it pushes up into an upholstery tool. So, which this upholstery tool I never bother to use because there's no point. You might as well just use the brush. I guess it's nice to have the option there though. But yeah, and also this, it definitely, you just kind of, you put this on there all the way. If you're just like trying to wind up the cord, this kind of pops off easily. So that's kind of odd. But yeah, so dusting brush, not really good for dusting. But yeah, and then that I like. So it goes pretty far down. I'm just kind of messing around at this point. Obviously, again, not the review of this thing, but it gets kind of dusty. But I have yet to wash this filter in here, and the filter in this thing is filthy. I don't know if you can see how bad this filter's gotten, but this thing is packed full. It's really hard to see, but you can see the max line's right there. I'm well past the max line, and it's still going. It is still going. It's holding up to the abuse, unlike that thing probably would. So there's that. So yeah, that's the Moosoo, and so far so good, I guess. I like the handle on it. Handle's nice and comfortable. Feels good. Some people have commented and said this looks like a certain Hoover or a Vax. Don't know how much I know about that, but I guess I could see it. So that's this Moosoo. So I'm going to keep seeing if I can find parts for it. I'm going to keep using it until I get the review out. So once I get the parts, or I should say once I find actual links to parts and stuff, I'll get the review out on that. Moosoo hasn't really responded to me at all. They sent the initial email asking me to review this, And then I said, yeah, sure, I'll review it. And I gave them my information, and then they never responded, but this showed up at my door like 3 days later. It was not a long time at all that this thing showed up. So very fast shipping, but not much else communication besides that. But I guess that's good, because it means that, you know, there's no like, hey, we want you to talk about this, we want you to talk about this. Just nope. Here you go. Here you go. Do what you want. And I like that. I can respect that. So just kind of winging it. Just like, okay, here's a vacuum. Do what you want. Hopefully there's a good review. And yeah. So I definitely can enjoy that. And first upright that I've ever received from a company. So that's kind of cool. But yeah. So again, full review. The reason it hasn't quite happened yet is I'm still trying to find links to a lot of the parts and stuff, and you know, like the filters and the belts and the brush roll and all that stuff. I'm trying to figure out if anyone has any information about parts that are compatible. Maybe, again, if this is actually some other machine that already exists, then maybe there's a parts infrastructure for that machine that'll be compatible with this thing. I don't know. Because again, I see a lot of the reviews of this machine, and a lot of them are positive, but I'm not seeing anything about belts, about filters, about any of that, and obviously all that's really important. You know, especially for a machine like this, where those parts are expected to be replaced at least occasionally. I mean, the filter in the dust cup is supposedly a lifetime filter that you can wash. I have yet to wash it. I likely will soon. But, because I've been, you know, fixing up a couple other machines instead. But, that will eventually get washed, and we'll see how that process is. But yeah, so for those wondering why the review on the Moosoo hasn't come yet, that's why. Just because I'm still trying to find links to parts and stuff that'd be kind of helpful for a review. Especially because, you know, it's kind of important for me that you can find parts, because if I recommend one of these and then someone local to me buys it and they want me to fix it at one point down the road, then if I can't find parts, that's not good. So, anyways, but again, if I can find the parts, great, review will come out right after that, because I've already pretty much gathered up all my thoughts necessary. But again, I'm not going to complete the review till I find the parts. So there's that. And also, a treat for those who stayed until the end, the bin for the Kenmore Dry Tech has arrived. So, if you stayed until the end, I don't have a lot of recording space left on my phone for some reason. But we can see, I'm assuming I wrapped the cord up correctly on this thing. This cord is really weird. So, we're going to try this out. It should be in the off position now. I figured out the power switch. It was just being really finicky for some reason. So, it doesn't sound the best. Keep that in mind. But, what are you going to expect? It's a 1989 machine that's a direct air bagless, so it's not really designed for longevity. Anyways, it's off right now. Let's turn it on to the vacuum mode and see if this thing explodes. Not great. Now let's try it on brush and then on dispense. So that's brush. That's dispense. Oh god. And that's off, even though it's actually on the vacuum mode, because this switch is friggin' stupid. There we go. Yeah, so sometimes you have to push it all the way for it to go off, and then while it's in vacuum mode, it's It's weird, but when I push it in vacuum mode, oh. So it's actually like the way you have to push the switch. I don't think it's actually defective. But yeah, that, ugh. To me, it sounds like the fan in this thing has blown up. I'm not an expert on these things, and I'm also, it's been a very, very long time since I've worked on a direct air machine, like actually down to the fan and everything. So the fan might have blown up in this thing. I don't know. Perhaps the Phantom experts that are familiar with how these things are supposed to sound can tell me, but that's what it sounds like to me. Obviously, I very easily could pull this thing apart and see what's wrong with it, but I don't know if I'm going to bother, honestly, because it is in pretty decent condition other than that, but, you know, that's obviously not a big deal. But we can see, if I pull, again, it's hard to do this, but if I pull these tabs and then pull this up, which is the way you're supposed to do this, not the best system, exactly, but that's the way you're supposed to do it, at least that I'm aware of. So now that this is pulling out, now you can grab the bin, pull it out of the little cam locks, and then just kind of wiggle it out. So you can see it actually picked up some stuff, which is interesting. Like basic direct air bagless machine, and running it on, some of that was already in there because I did test it out before, so keep that in mind. It didn't get all that just from this little bit, but it's amazing how even with how bad it sounds, it's still picked up a little bit. So if we can see that, yes, that is, you can see some fine dust. Again, like 1980s technology here. And it still got up a little bit. Isn't that cool? See the max line right there, so you can use this as a vacuum. It's got these little divots right here, because again, I haven't seen anyone. Oh, is that cracked? Oh no, it's not. It's just like a little arrow design. But yeah, we can see they're just these little arrows. And they're these little slots, as you can see, that it just sits into. It's almost like a little bit like a clear track almost. So you just kind of wedge it in there, which is a bit weird. You just wedge it in there, and then you lay it flat into those little grooves, just like that. And then you just grab the machine and you just push it down until it clicks into place and seals everything up, just like that. Now it's all firm in there. Interesting design, I must say. So that's the Kenmore Dry Tech, also known as the Phantom Capture. Also, again, I believe I showed this. We can see, I believe that was November something-ith, 29th, I think, off the top of my head. Somewhere in that range, November 29th-ish of 1989. That's the model number. It's a very long model number. And the serial number. Style SF7. So I don't know if that could be considered the model number or just the actual model number. Yeah, made in Canada. Alright, so that's that. That's the Dry Tech and the Moosoo. So, Untitled Studio signing out. Quick little update. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.